It's a full all-day affair.
All day, all night.
When did you sleep?
We didn't. I don't know how I survived, to be honest with you. I think I'm still tired from back then. In Miami, I mean, where else can you have Danny Zineglia playing back-to-back with Seth Troxler and Victor Calderon pretty much doing the opening set? I mean, that's just, it's unheard of.
It's nuts.
You know, it's unheard of. Winter Music Conference itself, I guess 2-3 years ago, they did a whole piece on me and named me one of the most influential people in music conference history. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of years in. If I look back, I've lived a pretty full life in the world of music anyway.
That's amazing. Jonathan Cowan, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with us. Thank you for the media passes last week. You're a legend in the space. Winter Music Conference, Miami Music Week, you've had so much involvement in this entire beautiful week of electronic music based here in Miami. And part of what Super Progressive, and shout out to Will for facilitating this and all his help with this, and what Medtronica are doing is covering the history of Winter Music Conference, how it's transitioned into Miami Music Week, and you've had such a pivotal role in this entire space. I want to open up the floor for you to talk about your involvement, and then I'm gonna just ask some questions throughout that, but you have had such an influential part of Miami Music Week and Winter Music Conference. Where did it all kind of begin for you?
So it started, mid-90s, I guess. My love for electronic music really started at a place called Oz in Orlando, going up there. I remember it was a night with Sasha. It kind of changed my life and got me involved in this whole scene. And I started to learn more and more about the music, started DJing a little bit, and I guess my first music conference party would have been, I'm guessing 96, 97. It was actually a cream party at GrooveJet, which is in the space that's now Treehouse today. That was a pretty special event. I remember, thinking back on it, it was myself playing with Dave Seaman, Slacker Live, Timo Moss. We had Chris Fortier, the light in the back. It was just a big bash. That kind of started things for me rolling, and I'd been going to conference before that. It was always go to the Fontainebleau, you get your badge. It was such a good time. I guess it was a different time then, because you would really kind of go and everybody would be passing out their white label vinyl around the pool, and it was really where you got the new records. It's kind of different today with the digital age, music being readily available. But so it just kind of morphed from that. We did GrooveJet for a few years, did a couple conference parties at Crowbar, then started doing events at a club that I own called Nerve. And that kind of moved on to the Shelborne, which became a beast within myself and my family. It was a hotel that my family actually owned, and that's where we started the partnership with DJ Mag. Was way back then. That probably started around 2006, I would guess. And we also had a club in there called Shine. So it was kind of a different animal. We had the pool parties that would start at noon, and the club that would go till 7 a.m. And it was literally just nonstop, fully going on.
It's a full all-day affair.
All day, all night.
When did you sleep?
We didn't. I don't know how I survived, to be honest with you. I think I'm still tired from back then. Forget about now, but it was...
Not to mention Miami Music Week that just happened.
Exactly. So it's been a life of recovery, but so that kind of morphed into a beast of an animal with that, with doing the day and the night, the DJ Mag stuff. At that point, like New Times named us the hub of Winter Music Conference. I guess for me personally, I'm kind of off on a tangent here, but we kind of built that up. I was still DJing a lot. I was resident DJ at Pasha in the summers, so I was over there for almost all the summers, and then doing the Shelborne stuff for Winter Music Conference in the winter. And it it kind of lasted with that, I guess, until around 2014 or so. My family sold the hotel. I did 1 year at the Delano and then kind of took a break for a little bit, but then kind of got back in a couple years ago. We started doing the events at the Epic Hotel, but then the pandemic happened, so everything kind of stopped and slowed down, but kind of opened the doors with that, because Kimpton didn't really want to do events anymore, and we met the people at the Sagamore and started doing the events there, which year one was good, year two was magical, and it really felt special to me this year because it kind of reminded me of those Shelborne days. You saw, all the DJs, whether they were playing or not playing, they were around, all the artists were around, all the managers were around, and they were back every day, and it was just was really special. You know, and it just kind of, it's just something that's really special to me and something that I've built up and something that's meant a lot to me. And I think it culminated with Winter Music Conference itself. I guess 2-3 years ago, they did a whole piece on me and named me one of the most influential people in music conference history. And that just, you know, it was a lot of hard work and a lot of years in, so it's felt good for that.
That's amazing. And being that you've been on both sides, it seems like you've been on both sides of the business, right? Throwing the events, procuring those, and being on the DJ side. Is there one that you like more than the other?
If I wasn't a DJ, I don't know that I would do the events. It's my love for the music that gets me doing it, my love for the energy and all the rest of it. And I think the DJing keeps me up to date and into the music and what's current. The events I like because it lets me be creative and do the production aspect and, you know, be a DJ. So I'll make sure the sound system's right, where I think a lot of the other promoters kind of forget about the sound and forget about the little things, and that stuff to me is really important. So I think it kind of, it all goes together, but I would say I'm a DJ more than a promoter.
With all your years of experience, what about this week was different than 20 years ago? And what was the same? Like, was there some similar crossover in magic that was the same, and what was different?
Well, interesting, like, if you're talking really 20 years ago, God, I have to think how long ago 20 years ago. I've been doing this for so long, but when you go back to the original days of Winter Music Conference, you really didn't have any pool parties at all. It was just the nighttime parties that went on. The badges would get you into all the nighttime parties and everything, and where people would go during the day was to the Fontainebleau pool, like I touched on before. That would kind of be the meetup every single day, and it wasn't that there were DJs playing or anything, but that's where you would meet the label people, the artists trying to push a new record or a new, you know, mix or whatever, but everything, there was no digital. So, you know, it really was much more of a networking thing. I think, you know, today still is a networking thing, but it's just very different because you're networking at the actual parties and events where it's loud, it's bassy, it's everything else. So you're hanging, but I don't know that the connection is as great as it was so many years ago, because it was, you know, everybody going to the same place for the same purpose, which was getting new music.
Got it.
Which today you get, you know, the minute it comes out by pushing a button on the computer.
For sure.
You know, in a way it makes it a little less special, but, you know, all the same, it's great to get everybody from the industry in one place at one time. It's rare, doesn't happen often, so it's always a good thing.
And during Miami Music Week, when we've interviewed other artists like Doc Martin, said the same thing.
Right.
Said Fontainebleau was the place you go for music distribution, and that was the place that it got distributed, and then DJs and artists would break records at other parties during Winter Music Conference.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you feel that magic is still there in Miami Music Week, where artists are still breaking records, even though we can get it on Beatport now the moment it comes out?
Right. Yeah, not as much. I mean, sure, I guess there's some music you'll hold back as an artist. You'll just kind of play for the first time at conference, and if it gets, you know, people start talking about it or like it, it's one thing. But it's not. I don't think people are looking for that special record anymore, because everybody just knows the music's out there. Where, you know, it was really a different time back then. Literally, you would get that, you know, acetate or that first pressed vinyl and play it that night at wherever you were playing, and it literally might be the first time that was ever played out in public. And I think that's a little bit harder to achieve these days.
So how would you describe some of the new magic coming into Miami Music Week? Because those are special moments, and when I hear people talk about, like, oh, it was better back in the 90s, like, those might be moments that they talk about where it's like you had to be there.
Yeah.
But I still feel like there is a lot of magic in the new Miami Music Week.
Well, there is. I mean, like I just touched on before, where, you know, it's the one place you get all the artists that are in town and they come together, and it was, you know, like this week, for instance, you know, it was great to see Sasha come down and hang out, you know, just even though he's not playing. I mean, MK was at the Sagamore almost every day just hanging out. The Defected crew, I mean, they did Defected with us and Glitterbox with us, but they were also there every single day, and they said they kept trying to go other places, wouldn't have as great of a time, and end up coming back. So for me, this year felt really special, just having the accumulation of all of the artists, all the DJs, all the managers that just came back. And I think that's still the one very special thing about Miami Week. You know, I mean, you have IMS in Ibiza, which is kind of like that, but it's also the same time as Detroit. So I think Miami's really the one time, maybe ADE is kind of like this also, where you'll get all the DJs, all the managers, all the industry people together in one place, and that, you know, that creates some special moments. You know, a lot of business gets done, a lot of deals get done. You know, in that realm all in itself, it's just, you know, it's pretty special.
And I think it's a testament to what you're doing at the Sagamore, specifically with the pool parties, because it's such a diverse range,
Sure.
right? We've got Defected, Glitterbox, Seth Troxler, Danny Snaglia, Victor Calderon, and then the Soundgarden, right? And you're having such a group come, different variation of genres come through, but everyone's saying, I didn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, kudos to you for doing that. Like,
No,
that's got to be, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it was nice,
compliment.
and you're right, it was well-rounded. I mean, and then starting off with the DJ Mag party, you had the kind of your EDM, but still Purple Disco Machine and Cassie that day, so it was really cool. And then Defected gave you that full-on house treatment that only Defected does. And then, like you touched on, Soundgarden was a special day, and you know, that day has a lot of that day was pretty cool for me also. Just, it was kind of a reunion of sorts with Nick. Nick and I go way back. I used to play with him at Renaissance in the 90s, and we used to play together at GrooveJet, and then we did a party for probably 8 years straight almost, where it was at Shine in the Shelborne. It was me, Dave Seaman, and Nick Warren in the main room, and it was just the three of us. We would do the party beginning to end, and everybody would get their hour set or 2 hour set, but it was just a lot of tag teaming back and forth, and that was kind of the same sort of thing that I was just touching on, where you would get every industry person that just would come down for that, and you'd see them in the same place. So it just, you know, that party kind of was really full circle for me to have that reconnection with Nick and Petra and working with them again. It felt special, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that's like perfectly set up for my next question. So thank you, because the Soundgarden for Will and I was such a magical moment. I know mainly for Will, because he's focusing on the progressive house niche, and there's a lot of talk in not just the electronic music industry, but specifically in progressive house, where it's like it was better in the 90s. But this moment that we experienced at the Soundgarden, at the Sagamore Hotel, with the crowd, with Nick Warren, with the lineup that Petra curated, which was impeccable. What would you say to people that say it might have been better back in the 90s, like about what the Soundgarden had to offer this year?
I mean, musically, you know, people say progressive house is dead and kind of went away. I don't think progressive house ever went away. I think if you just kind of slow down what the techno DJs were playing and, you know, just put it down a few BPMs, you got old school progressive house. For me, you know, I started on progressive house. Like I said earlier, my first kind of thing was Sasha just blowing my mind, and then, you know, got lucky enough to play with him and be very friendly with him down the road. But it's true progressive house, I think, is the perfect house music. It's just kind of building. It's got those crisp highs, those big rolling bass lines, and if you really go back to that Renaissance era, you know, the big kind of gospel sort of vocals. And I feel like that's kind of coming back in a way. And even where I said before, techno, slow it down, it's progressive house, but really, like, look at the Defected sound too. I mean, it's, you know, still a little houseier, maybe a little funkier, but you still have those vocals and that kind of diva-ish sort of thing, which all stems from progressive house. So for me, it's you know, it's something that it's my roots. It's where I started.
I really resonate with that. The gospel part of the vocals is so important. It just, and like what my part about electronic music is the mental health aspect of it, and what penetrates for me, like pierces the veil into my soul, is that vocal, whether it's coming through for Defective and it's just that like soulful gospel, or if it's coming through in progressive house, it's just something that transcends the genres.
Sure.
And I think that's something that progressive house in its essence does.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so special.
Yeah, well, I think any DJ can play a good progressive house track in any set. And it's funny, like when I play today, I'll still play records that are 20 years old, you know, that still sound great today. And it's usually the progressive stuff that fits. And I mean, leaning into what you just said on Sunday for Glitterbox, nobody knew this was happening, but Louis Vega showed up with Barbara Tucker, who's probably one of the most legendary vocalists in house music, and she got up and performed, and you know, all those little special moments. I mean, like we were talking before, I guess there are those little special moments that happen, but it's all because of the amount of people you have in town at one time that those things can even happen.
That's the clip right there. The
Yeah.
amount of people in town at time and allowing those circumstances to happen.
Sure.
And I think that is the theme in Miami Music Week and Winter Music Conference.
Absolutely.
And is carried over. And now we have, like you had said before, the ADEs of the world and some of these other conferences. But truly, like, Winter Music Conference was the OG.
Oh yeah, first one, for sure.
And so do you feel like a lot of these other festivals, conferences have kind of taken and adopted parts of Miami Music Week?
To an extent, I think ADE for sure. I think, you know, I've been to ADE, I've been to IMS. ADE kind of reminded me more of conference because it's more just about the parties, the events, everything else. IMS, I'll say, is a little bit of a different animal because it really is more about the business, the conference, the events. And I mean, Winter Music Conference was always about the conference as well. There were always the panels and the speakers and the different things that happened. You know, that hadn't come back this year, but I'm hearing that they are trying to relaunch it for next year. So I hope they do.
That's cool.
I hope they do. I mean, people say Miami Music Week. For me, it's always Winter Music Conference.
Yeah. And that's like, just for myself, it's like looking at the history of where things come from. It's like bringing the essence back with it. And even though I'm new, I'm seeing that essence was developed by Winter Music Conference.
For sure.
And to take this back to like your venues and your parties, you have a beautiful setup last week. Defected, Glitterbox, DT, Seth Troxler, Victor Calderon, the Soundgarden.
Yep.
How, like, there's no definition in genres right there.
Sure.
How important is that for you as a curator and an event like coordinator and owner in this space to have just genres not being defined and having an eclectic setup?
Yeah, very. I mean, I've always tried to have, you know, a very diverse week of music. You know, the events I've done, you know, going all the way back, I used to do Def Mix and the X Mix party and we did then the Vision Quest party. I mean, we've kind of done them all, but it was always good music, but different music. And to have that, you know, that versatility was always really important when I'm programming it, for sure.
Yeah, and just noticing, like, right, because each party attracts a different crowd. But and I think that's the beauty in electronic music, is that you have all these different crowds, but all these people enjoying the same commonality.
Sure.
Which is this love and passion for electronic music and the impact that it has for each and every one individual. And while it may be all different, like, the community still is in alignment with, we're here for the music.
For sure.
And I think you all did a really good job of that this year.
you.
And even though I'm very new, I felt the magic anytime we set up at the Sagamore. Like, you could just feel the energy. While it may have been different for each crowd, it was all coming from the same good place.
But you know what, as much as you say it's different for each crowd, which it was amazing to see still, like, you know, the Defected crew coming to support the Soundgarden party. And I don't know if that was more of a testament to us and the venue or what was going on, but it was just interesting to see them coming back day in, day out. You know, Francesca Lombardo was, you know, at the Defected party, and you had Marcus Schultz at the DJ Mag party, and you know, none of them were playing for us, but they're all just coming to hang out and be around good people and hear good music. So I think it's kind of where it all ties in and it all sort of fits together.
And I think that's magic specifically to the Sagamore and what you do, and also in the industry itself. Like, I had an experience at GrooveJet similar to what you're saying with Francesca, just kind of hanging out and being there. I went to go see Rodriguez Jr. perform, and Porky and Lee Reynolds were on before, but you had Doc Martin there just hanging out to see his friends from the West Coast, you know, both Lee Reynolds, legend in the space, and Porky from the West Coast as well, but also stayed for Rodriguez Jr.
Yeah.
And just there to support, there for the music. And I think when you find those artists who have been here, like yourself, for such a long time in the space, you really see the true passion and the truth as to why they're here. And I think with social media these days, and just new DJs popping up every single day, right? Everyone could produce in their basement now, and everyone's got a mixer, including myself. You know, I'm a bedroom DJ.
Sure.
But there may be different reasons of why people get into this business, and that's totally cool, to each their own. But I love to see people there for the music.
Sure.
And someone like Francesco Lombardo, who I think is a phenomenal artist, someone like Doc Martin, and someone like yourself who's a veteran in the space, like being there for the music. I think that's another magical part of Miami Music Week.
For sure.
And one of the last questions that I have for you is specifically to Miami.
Yep.
And you've been in South Florida for quite some time. And I want, in your opinion, I want to know, Miami as a city, what does it have to offer specifically for this week at Winter Music Conference and Miami Music Week, but also on a cultural level in general for electronic music outside of Winter Music Conference?
Well, I think, Miami has sort of its Latin roots, so the Latin roots kind of bring you back to that original house music sound and house music feel, so I think it kind of goes back and it's deep rooted in entertainment and has a big history, but it's also such a melting pot of people from South America, people from Europe, people from all over that have kind of moved to Miami. And then I think when you take Winter Music Conference, you have it in March, people are kind of just recovering from their New Year's spending and holiday spending. People are ready to go out. It's before Ibiza starting, so people can just kind of come over here. It's cold almost everywhere else in the world, so it's just kind of the perfect recipe to get everybody together, people from different cultures, people from different worlds, but all here for the music and enjoying themselves in the sun. I think it gets them ready knowing that Ibiza is not far away, but they're still going home to their cold climate and their cold place. And it's just, I think it's just done at the perfect time, the perfect city. You got the ocean, the beach. It's just got all the elements to success. And I think because of that, it's the only place that you're really going to see lineups like you do, in Miami. I mean, where else can you have literally Danny Tenaglia playing back-to-back with Seth Troxler and Victor Calderon pretty much doing the opening set. I mean, it's unheard of.
It's nuts.
It's unheard of. So it's just, it's just a different animal that leads to something beautiful.
I agree. There was a night, Will and I we were going to go get food. We went to the Pollo Tropical, which I love, which whatever that says about me, but we were so busy editing and downloading video content, we just took a minute to go, okay, tonight, I think it was like Friday night, we're going to the Sagamore. We're seeing, was that the same night Danny was there and with Seth?
With Seth,
yeah. So we went and saw Danny with Seth and Victor, and then later we went to Treehouse, and then we went to go see John Digweed and Sasha.
Sure.
And it's just like, that's a dream day.
Yeah, I think that was actually the Friday, so that would have been during the Soundgarden party.
Okay, so that was Soundgarden. So so it was, we went to saw Nick Warren, Francesca, so it was Soundgarden, and then Danny, and then Sasha and John. It's just like, where do you get that?
No, you don't.
You don't.
Yeah,
It was a kind of I mean, that whole week was a pinch me moment, but that day specifically was a pinch me moment.
For sure.
And then for you, what does the future look like of Miami Music Week for you and what you have going on? I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. So, I mean, after the success of the Sagamore, I think no-brainer that we'll end up doing that again next year. We've also been toying with the idea of trying to possibly do a beach project, or see if we can get a tent between the owners of the Sagamore. Also are involved in the Ritz-Carlton next door, so we're really trying to do a push to see if we can do something on the sand. I doubt that'll be next year, but maybe 2 years away. And then me on a personal level, I mean, I just had a child not long ago. I've been an 8-month-old baby boy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, I had been DJing quite a bit again. I kind of slowed down since he was born, but I'd like to start playing more again. I got to play a little bit on the Saturday of conference opening before Victor. But that was really the only gig I played this year, for conference anyway. But I have been doing a lot of production again. Had a couple tracks come out on Dave Seaman's Celador imprint over the last few months. Beatport actually found one as their I think it was their #1 hot new pick for February or something in the progressive realm.
That's amazing.
It was good to see. It was played on John Digweed shows, so it's gotten some airplay, and spend some more time in the studio and behind the decks, and we'll figure out what else is coming as far as event-wise. Right now, I don't have anything organized, but last year I did do my first venture outside of electronic music, which I'd love to do more of. There's an amphitheater in Hollywood, Florida that I used, and I did a concert with Cypress Hill and 311.
No way.
Yeah,
That's
and
sick.
that was ridiculous. I mean, I've done a ton of events, but that was pretty rewarding, you know, to actually
Wow.
have legends like that on a stage and seeing them actually perform. It was different than just seeing a DJ pull up to some turntables, but you know, so I'd like to get more into that live music space to some degree.
Cool.
But my roots will always be house.
So cool. Wow, that's an amazing venture, and I've had the privilege to go experience like 311, Slightly Stoopid,
Yeah.
Cypress Hill. One of my teammates in college, his cousin was the DJ for Cypress Hill.
Oh, wow.
Which was like so
Awesome.
cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a awesome plug to
Yeah,
throw that
totally.
out there. And I think that's so cool. Like a big take on music for me is people, they can like what they want to like.
Sure.
You know, you can like disco, you can like techno, you can like acid house, you can like progressive, you can like 311, you can love rap, hip hop, because they all pull from each other. And I think that's really cool of you and
Yeah.
special, and shows like how much of a true artist you really are yourself.
Thank you.
To venture into those realms, because there's so much inspiration to pull from everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
so cool. And the last question I have for you, and this is, I'm trying to ask one consistent question throughout
no
all my
worries.
interviews. But the last question I have for you is, being that you've been in this space and you've seen so much, and you have so much knowledge and so much experience, is there anything, looking back on it now, that you would have told your younger self that may have been some like words of encouragement, or something you wish you knew back then when you first got into it, that you wish you could have shared or instilled some wisdom?
You know, that's a tough question. It's an interesting question. Looking back, I don't know that I would change very much. I think I'm pretty happy with the way, you know, stuff in my musical life kind of played out. You know, maybe I would have pushed myself a little bit harder as a DJ and traveled a little bit more and done some more. But, you know, I say that and I can't really, I did do a lot. I mean,
Yeah, you've done so much.
yeah, no, I mean, even as a DJ, you know, I was resident for Renaissance,
Yeah.
and resident at The Kitchen, which was owned by U2, and that was in Dublin. So I've done a lot of traveling, but I never did that consistent like tour thing, except for my Ibiza summers. So, you know, maybe I would have DJ'd a bit more and tried to push myself a little bit more in the DJ space. But honestly, I kind of like the way it played out. I started kind of very organically, just getting into events, and fell in love with the music, and, you know, got pushed to start DJing, just from DJing at some of the after hours parties and stuff. And, you know, it kind of evolved into the bigger events at the Shelborne, which became, you know, into the media stuff with DJ Mag, and that kind of morphed into, you know, that's really what connected me with Pasha, because we started doing the Pasha party, so that got me my residency. So I think, you know, if I look back, I've lived a pretty full life in the world of music anyway.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And from an outsider looking in, it looks like you've touched it all and done it all. From
Yeah.
somebody who would want to have every experience they could in electronic music, you
Yeah.
seem like a big inspiration for that, and a poster child for it. So
No, I appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for
absolutely.
taking out the time to do this, and a lot of respect to everything that you've done in the space and how many people you've impacted in it.
I
know
appreciate
for
it.
myself, for sure.
Thank you. No, that's what means the most to me, is knowing that we've impacted people and making people happy, and, you know, it's the best feeling in the world. So,
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right.